Families in the Clyde Green Springs area believe they are one step closer to understanding why their kids are getting sick. This is 11-year-old Alexa Brown. The young girl lost her battle with brain cancer more than 3 years ago.
13 ABC has been following the developments in the Clyde cancer cluster all throughout Alexa Brown's brave battle and as her family worked to find answers for her tragic death.
And through the years, state health and environmental leaders have conducted a lot of testing to try to find out what's causing the unusually high number of childhood cancer cases.
We're looking for any emissions we may, not already know about or expect.
I don't have an answer. I can't explain what's causing the cancers.
I really do want to know why. I really do want to know why 19 kids in a period of 3 years all developed cancer in a town of 6,000 people.
I believe that state departments of health, local departments of health should investigate those issues as opposed to back away from them.
Now, a new report by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency found high levels of PCBs and toxic metals in the soil at Whirlpool Park.
And we have team coverage of this new development in the Clyde Cancer Cluster tonight. I-Team reporter Sean Haggerty investigates what the chemical is and just how dangerous it is for the residents there.
And we begin, though, with 13 ABC's Christine Long, who spoke to Whirlpool Corporation as well as the families who say they're just devastated. Christine?
Diane Lee, families are upset, saying a playground was a toxic dumping area. They've hired attorneys to independently investigate that and 14 other sites.
I want you to focus in on that.
Warren Brown holds up a picture of his daughter Alexa, who died when she was 11 years old. Steve Keller holds a picture of his grandson Cole, who died at the age of 6.
But this community has to be made safer.
The families have been frustrated for years. The state health department started the cancer cluster investigation in 2006, and that report found no known cause for the high cancer rates. However, the families have now hired attorneys after reading the new U.S. EPA report finding high levels of PCBs and toxic chemicals in the soil at Whirlpool Park.
Maybe this is the common link.
Whirlpool Park is now closed. It was owned by the Whirlpool Corporation from the 1950s until the company sold it in 2008.
I went to the park from when I was 8 to 10 years old.
It's troubling that they would landscape a park for children, whoever put it there, using toxic sludge, and then inviting the kids of the county to come and play at this park for several years.
Whirlpool Corporation sent this letter to all employees this morning saying the company bought the park in the 1950s.
From the time we purchased the property, it was a park when we purchased it. It was a park from the time that we purchased it until we sold it. And so our records and all the information that we have shows that property was used as a park.
The company says it has been working with the EPA since being notified of these test results. However, the spokesperson says the current property owner has denied the company access to the site.
Well, absolutely, we're concerned. We've got over 3,000 employees. We've been there 60 years. We hope to be there another 50 to 60 years.
Nothing infuriated me more is when the state came in and said there was nothing there. Because I've spent a lot of time, a lot of hours at the Northwest EPA and BG. I knew there was a lot there. And now we all know there's a lot there.
When Alexa lay on her deathbed, I told her her death would not be in vain. We're going to get some answers.
Nearby homeowners are worried. This is an old park now closed where EPA results from testing found evidence of toxic sludge. In some places, it was 9 feet deep.
I feel like selling the place and getting out of here,
Bill Hackett is a retired tool and die maker and grandfather of 3.
So it's not that far away, and if you look between the trees, you can see it.
He lives about a quarter-mile east of Whirlpool Park, which closed years ago.
The wind predominantly comes from that direction, so I don't know, if it's going to blow those contaminants over here on my land, and then I go out here and plant a garden and feed my family, and I'm killing them.
The 62-year-old went to last night's news conference. That's where attorneys for families of kids who died from cancer explained the new U.S. EPA report that says soil borings at the former park revealed high levels of PCBs, which were banned in 1979 after it was learned the chemical causes cancer. Hackett says when his kids were teenagers, they'd swim at the park pool.
And then I find out that they're filling the swimming pool out of the pond that's full of all these contaminants, and everybody's swimming around. It's like Jaws, you know? You got this big shark in the water and nobody's telling you.
Yeah, I'm concerned, but it's going to take time.
Brett Carroll says he and his parents have lived in their home just west of the park for 18 years. He used to swim there when he was a kid. The 23-year-old says he doesn't trust this testing process.
Well, it doesn't really make a difference. So it's whatever's there has already happened, so can't change it.
Hackett, however, isn't prepared to be patient. He wants to see records of who put what in the ground.
And just hopefully they'll come forward and we'll at least find out what we're dealing with. Right now, it's a boogeyman in the bushes and you don't know what it is.
The big question is, how dangerous are the toxins that were found in the soil? The U.S. EPA says more testing is necessary. Now, Whirlpool Corporation, the major employer in Clyde, employs about 3,000 people, been here for about 60 years. The company owned this park from the 1950s until they sold it in 2008. A spokesperson says it was always just a park, and Whirlpool, the company spokesperson, says the company wants answers. They're willing to go back onto the property to do more testing. They're willing to buy the property back if necessary. Reporting live from Green Springs, Christine Long, 13 ABC, Action News. The company owned the park from 1953 until leaders sold it 4 years ago. Now, Whirlpool now wants access back onto the site to do its own testing. And if further investigation shows that the old park was contaminated while the company owned it, Whirlpool leaders say whether it was contaminated by Whirlpool or by an outside contractor, Whirlpool will pay to clean it up.
We have an obligation to help this community get answers.
Jeff Knoll, vice president for Whirlpool, says the company has been cooperating with the U.S. EPA since testing revealed high levels of carcinogens in the soil at Whirlpool Park. He's responding after last week attorneys for families with kids who died from cancer held a news conference.
Our records show that we did not knowingly or have any record of putting any contaminants or any fill materials onto that property that would have been contaminated.
What was even more upsetting to the family members was the fact that Whirlpool had not disclosed this black sludge full of PCBs and other toxins, that its existence came from the hotline that it set up for people of the community who know about the dumping.
Yeah, we want to get those very same answers as well. Keep in mind, this park was about 6 to 7 miles away from our plant operations. In fact, it was actually, and still is today, in a fairly rural area.
Well, if somebody was dumping there without Whirlpool's knowledge, then I think Whirlpool's going to have to answer to that.
Whirlpool says there was a pool on the site when the company bought it in 1953, but Whirlpool hired contractors to make big upgrades.
It's troubling that they would landscape a park for children, whoever put it there, using toxic sludge. And then inviting the kids of the county to come and play at this park for several years.
We've made significant improvements to the pool. We did build the basketball courts and the tennis courts, and I believe there were 6 to 8 different major construction activities that took place on that site since 1953, and there were a lot of independent contractors and a lot of what would then have been acceptable activities in terms of moving dirt and things on that particular site during those construction efforts.
The Abdus thought they were getting a clean property when they bought the old Whirlpool Park in Green Springs back in 2008 to build a family home. Now they're scared that site could be the common link as to why so many kids in the area are getting sick.
When he discovered that there was contamination on his property was, oh my gosh, I hope this is not connected to the Clyde Cancer Cluster. But then as we thought about it more, in some ways we almost hope that it is, because if it is the cause, then it can be maybe taken care of and no one else gets hurt.
Whirlpool bought the property back in 1953. Jeff Knoll, a company VP, says Whirlpool hired several independent contractors back then to build the new fields, bleachers, basketball and tennis courts and upgrade the pool.
All of our records show that we never put any type of contaminants or items on that particular piece of ground.
Before allowing the company back onto the site to do testing, the Abdus want Whirlpool to commit to clean it to residential standards, which are higher than commercial industrial.
different uses of the property need different levels of protectiveness as far as the cleanup standards go.
But so far it appears Whirlpool is not committing to residential.
If there were items that were placed on that site during our ownership, even if they weren't placed there by us, we're going to clean it up, we're going to pay for the cleanup, we're going to do it according to industry standards.
Both sides sit down next week to try to come to an agreement.
And I'm fully optimistic that we'll be able to come out of that meeting with an agreement to get access to the property.
If they're not going to commit to cleaning it up to the appropriate level, then that's going to be a deal killer for us.
Reporting from Green Springs, Christine Long, 13 ABC, Action News. The owners, a father and son, want to know as much as the rest of the community if something on that property is causing kids to get sick. At least 37 children within a 12-mile radius of that area have been diagnosed with some form of cancer in the past 17 years. So today, owners unlocked the gates to show they're being thorough.
This right here was the edge of the pool. You'll see like some no diving signs.
Tom Bowles is the attorney for the Abdu family, who bought the old Whirlpool Park property from Whirlpool Corporation a few years ago. Last week, the company, the largest employer in Clyde, signed an agreement with the family allowing Whirlpool to test this property with oversight by the EPA.
We're trying to thoroughly characterize this site and really find everything there is to know about the property. We're not trying to hide everything.
Whirlpool purchased the property in 1953 and operated it as a park for employees and their families before closing it down 7 years ago. The old concession stand still stands, as well as swings and slides. The large pool, which was filled with spring water when it was open for families to enjoy, now sits dry. One of the men who bought the old park is Jonathan Abdu, and he has big visions for this property. He wants to turn the old pool into a pond, and if you look up here on this hill, you see all these wooden stakes. This is where he plans to build his family's dream home. Those plans are on hold. Yesterday, 2 certified environmental professionals had their first walkover on the site. Next month, 60-ton rigs will be out here digging samples 100 feet deep.
Certainly the PCBs that were found are concerning, and we want to know the exact scope and extent of that contamination.
There's a theory about how it got there. Bowles says the spring-fed water reservoir was also fed from an unsealed tile that was covered with fill around 1959. Later, Whirlpool built a basketball court on top. Today, you can see the 4 spots around the court where earlier this year, the U.S. EPA dug and discovered high levels of carcinogens 9 feet deep.
It's sad to think that it could be contaminated, and even sadder to think that it could have impacted people, health-wise.
This testing is expected to take several months to complete. The attorney for the Abdu family says the earliest they'll know any results is March. Reporting live, Christine Long, 13 ABC, Action News.